Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Lizzie. I'm a grateful, recovered addict alcoholic. Thank you, Adam, for asking me to come and share today. Thank you for everybody on the committee that puts this meeting together. I'm honored to be asked to share in a CA meeting. It is an honor and a privilege for me. Okay, so I'm a little nervous, so please forgive me, and I'm sorry if you've heard me share before. My story doesn't change. It is my story. So first, I want to welcome everyone. Anybody that's new, you have struck gold. This is CA Saved My Life. You are in the right place. If you're coming back from a relapse, that's wonderful. I'm glad you're here. What I was told in the beginning and today is please listen for the similarities and not the differences. I hope you get something out of this. So here it goes. My sobriety date is February 15th, 2003. By the grace of God, power greater than myself, in the rooms of CA and AA, I have not found it necessary to go back out and pick up another drink or a drug. Fortunately for me, relapse is not a part of my story. So I grew up, I'm obviously from the United States. I grew up in a New Jersey home. Both of my parents are not alcoholics. I actually grew up in a very loving household. My sister, who was 2 years younger than me, went into rehab when she was 16 years old. And I mean, and this is the truth of it. From day one, I was born an alcoholic drug addict. I know that now. I always knew I was a little different. I picked up my first drink when I was 13 years old because that's what we did where I grew up. I grew up in a little beach town and we drank on the weekends. And from the very, very get-go, I've never had one drink in my life. I was a blackout drinker from day one. I thought that that's what happens when you drank alcohol, that you blacked out. What I came to find out was normal people don't drink enough to black out. But, early on, I had, a lot of friends around me that always watched out for me and they protected me. So if I was in a blackout, they always made sure that I got home safely. And alcohol gave me that ease and comfort from the very beginning. I had a lot of friends. I was a chameleon. I fit into just about any group that I wanted to. But I always knew I was different. I always felt that there was some kind of hole inside of me, and I didn't know how to explain it. I was a very athletic kid. I played a lot of sports. I excelled in everything. Anything I did, I expected to win. My parents used to say to me, "What's going to happen when you come in second?" And my thought process was, it's never going to happen. I'm never going to come in second. Like, why would you even think that? And, alcohol, I didn't pick up drugs until later on in life, but I'll get to that. As I said, my sister went into rehab at 16. And at this point, I'm, drinking, on the weekends, blacking out all the time. And, did I have a lot of fun? In the very beginning, yeah, I did have some fun. It wasn't all bad for me. I drank for the effect. And that it was great. I mean, we went to parties on the weekends and that's what we all did. I just knew I was different. And as time went on, I realized that my friends weren't blacking out, and incomprehensible demoralization, the shame, the guilt that I felt. I made a lot of really bad decisions, especially with men. I had a history of eating disorders. I was bulimic by the time I was 12 years old. Always, again, trying to be perfect and trying to fit everything into this box. And I didn't really understand what was wrong with me, why I was different than everybody else. I went to 6 or 7 proms during my high school, and I don't remember any of them. And, that's the truth. And, I was ashamed, and, I couldn't even ask my friends really what happened, because I was embarrassed to say that I didn't remember. Again, because I blacked out, I wasn't always sloppy. My friends didn't realize that I was in a blackout. I seemed to put on the face that everything was okay. And I tried all the things that they talk about in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I switched from beer to wine. I would only allow myself one or two drinks, here and there, try and manage my drinking. I was only drinking on the weekends, and I was doing everything to try not to be an alcoholic, but I knew I was different than everybody else. And I was deathly afraid of drugs, because one, I knew I would like them. So fortunately for me, cocaine didn't come into my life until my 25th birthday. And I'm going to fast forward quite a bit. My 25th birthday, I tried cocaine for the first time, and I struck gold. Everything was fabulous. I could drink an enormous amount of alcohol. I grew up in a 24-hour town. We didn't go out until midnight, and we were out clubbing all night. And, the cocaine allowed me to be able to drink and not black out. Also allowed me to maintain my weight, because again, I had the eating disorder issue. And everything was great. Everything was working out, except for, again, I was making really bad decisions, especially with men. But I didn't view myself as an alcoholic drug addict, even though my sister was going to AA, and I would sit and, go to meetings with her when she'd pick up her chip every year. And I sat in those rooms, never heard my story, never, I just didn't think that it was me. I didn't identify at all. And I used to think, God, I felt so sorry for her. She's in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous as a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid. And this is going to be her life. Like, what a shame. And I mean, the fact of the matter is I was a selfish, self-centered individual and intolerant. And the world revolves around me. And as life went on, my drinking progressed, as the book talks about. I decided when I was 20, I was 26 or 27, and I decided that I was going to move cross country. I did a geographic because, if I move cross country, everything's going to be okay. So I moved to Scottsdale, Arizona in 1997, somewhere about there, 1997. And at that point, I was doing the controlled drinking. I was only drinking 2 or 3 drinks a night. And, and I managed to do that successfully for probably about 2 years before I moved there. And I thought, okay, I got this. But I would concentrate, which is not normal, so hard on only having 2 or 3 drinks a night that I couldn't follow conversations that were going on around me, because I was so consumed with, I can only have 2 drinks, or 3 drinks was my absolute max, because now I'm in a new state. I don't really know anyone. I don't want to embarrass myself. And I'm trying to keep this image. I worked in the salon industry, and you had to play the part. You had to be made up all the time. You had to dress the part. And I was trying to maintain, and I thought I was doing a pretty good job. So after being in Arizona for a couple of months, everything was going well. I got my dream job. I interviewed at a bunch of different salons, like top 100 salons in the country, and I got the job that I wanted. And I thought, I have arrived. Everything is great. And then Christmas time came around. And some friends decided, and at this point, drugs were coming in and out of my life. So a bunch of people wanted to get some cocaine for the Christmas party and asked me if I wanted to partake. And, of course I would say yes. And now the drugs are back in my life again. So I slowly I was drinking more. I was doing cocaine on the weekends, and then again, it was weekends, holidays, and special occasions. And I still thought I had a handle on everything. And as time progressed, things started to get bad, because now my drinking is, I'm drinking like I normally drank. And again, I'm going to fast forward. I was slipping into this depression. I was starting to isolate, and life started getting really uncomfortable. And again, I really don't know what's wrong with me. And I'm going to read something from the book, because I don't usually do this, but I'll do it anyway. It's in the chapter 4, We Agnostics. Lack of power, that was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously. But where and how were we to find this power? Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. That means we have written a book which we believe to be spiritual as well as moral. Well, lack of power. So I mean, that was what was wrong. You know, once I put one drink in, there was no telling where I was going to wind up, how much I was going to drink, and when I was going to stop. And I would swear to myself every morning that I wasn't going to do it again. And by 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm thinking about where I'm going to go for happy hour, where I'm going to go to score drugs. And, you know, that mental illness that I had, I didn't understand. And now the drugs are coming into my life again. And what little sleep that I had, I would get up in the morning, put my makeup on, look in the mirror, and I'd start to cry because I couldn't look at the person that was looking back at me. And I kept thinking, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with my life? And I didn't understand. I swear I wasn't going to, and I had every intention of stopping. I had every intention of not doing drugs again, but it got to the point that I was using every day against my will, because I couldn't wake up without it. I again didn't think I was an alcoholic because I was not living under a bridge. Again, I'm looking at all the things, you know, the differences. Not living under a bridge. I still had my job. I still had, you know, money in the bank. I was maintaining, and I thought I was hiding it from everybody, and that they didn't know what was wrong. And by 5 o'clock every afternoon, I'd be back at the bar, you know, 2 or 3 drinks. I'm back in the bathroom doing a line of Coke. And what started happening was I didn't want people to see how I really wanted to drink and use. I didn't use with other people. I used by myself. So I isolated, and I would do my couple of drinks, have my line, and casually bow out of the bar so I could go home and drink the way I wanted to and use the way I wanted to. And again, I thought I was hiding this from everybody. And again, I just didn't understand what was wrong with me. And, you know, I would go home on a Saturday after work. I would go to the store and fill up my cart with as much alcohol as I could fit into it, so I would not have to leave my apartment until I had to go back to work on a Tuesday. And that's how I was living. And I thought this was completely normal. I was no longer going out for happy hour with people. I was angry, resentful. I drank at my problems. Alcohol and drugs were my solution to everything. I blamed everybody and everybody else for what was going on. And I just didn't have an understanding of what was happening. And here my sister, had been in the rooms for quite some time by this point. She'd never really stepped in. Every now and then she'd say, "Do you think you have a problem with alcohol? Do you think you might you might be an alcoholic?" And I would start to cry, and, "How dare you? I'm not an alcoholic." And, you know, you're fucking crazy, and, you know, excuse my language, but like, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not like you. And I was so angry. And she would back off, and she'd leave me alone for a while. And again, I'm 2,000 miles away from her. So she saw my behavior. I was erratic and I was angry, but she didn't know that I was doing drugs. She thought I was, but she wasn't 100% sure. But she'd every now and then plant that seed, you know, maybe you might want to go to a meeting. And again, I never thought I was like her. I thought I was different. And as time went on, life got worse. I was slipping deeper and deeper and deeper into a depression. And, you know, I was crying every day. I was sleeping with pills in my hand every night, praying to God to take me. And every morning, and I didn't have the guts to kill myself. And every morning I'd get up and think, why am I still here? Why doesn't he just take me? I was surrounding myself with people that were extremely dangerous. I was putting myself in extremely dangerous situations, and I just didn't see anything wrong with it. I mean, my thought process was, if somebody kills me, I'll be better off. I'll just be better off not being here anymore, because I couldn't do it myself. And that's how I was living. And it was just awful. So anyway, I'm going to fast forward as the years went on. 2000, I got sober on February 15th, 2003. November of 2002 was right before Thanksgiving. My boss pulled me into the office, and I was an independent contractor. And he said, "I can't let you work here anymore, Liz. You used to be this happy, beautiful girl that used to light up a room with your smile. And you're a drug addict and I can't have you here anymore. And I just remember that I cried and begged for my job. And I said, you don't understand, you know, this is what's happening, and it won't happen again. And because I was coming in late and I looked like hell, and again, I was very angry. And his brother had overdosed and died a couple of weeks about a week before. And he said, I'm not going to watch you kill yourself anymore. If you want help, I'll take you to rehab, I'll put you in detox, I'll do whatever I can do, but you can't work in my establishment anymore. And I begged, please, Daryl, don't do this, I need this job, it's the only thing I have left. And he said, can't help you, Liz, pack up your stuff and get out. And I walked out of there that night so angry, and I thought, how fucking dare him. I am not a drug addict. He's out of his mind. And knowing full well that I'm using methamphetamines every day, and I couldn't come to terms with it. And again, that was in mid-November. I didn't get sober until February 15th. So I still needed a little bit of time out there, thinking I could get it together. So I got off the drugs for a little bit of time. I had a friend come out from New Jersey in January to see me. And, we're out drinking, because meanwhile, I think I'll just get off the drugs, but I can still drink safely. So that was another problem I had. I still couldn't admit that I was an alcoholic. Well, by the time mid-January rolled around, my friend I was back doing drugs again, and I kept saying, I can't do this, I have a problem. He grabbed me by the back of my hair and threw me up against my vanity, and he's like, look at yourself in the mirror, you're a disgrace, I'm embarrassed to call you my friend, you're a drug addict, I'm ashamed of you, wait till everybody finds out what you're really doing out here. And I just remember looking at myself going, what the hell happened in my life? How did I get here? And I called my sister and I said, Maggie, I love you. I'm so sorry. I can't do this anymore. Please tell mom and dad I'm sorry. And I was going to take my life. And I don't remember what the words were that she said to me that day, but whatever it was, I heard her. And she says, you're not going to kill yourself. I'm going to get you help. And I had to come down off the meth again. So I slept and would brush my teeth, take a shower, and call her every day. And I'm giving you the short version of this. And I would call her and she'd say, how are you doing? I was like, oh, I'm okay. And by day 3, I had slept for a couple of days now. And she said, are you okay? And I said, I think so. And she goes, I want to put you in treatment. I refused treatment. I refused detox. I refused all these things because I wasn't like all you people. And I said, I can do this on my own. And she says, no, you can't. You have 24 hours to go to an AA meeting or I'll never speak to you again. And I was begging, please, I'll be okay. I have a drug problem. She says, no, you have an alcohol and drug problem. And I can't wait for that phone call that you're not going to be here anymore. You're disrupting my life. And she says, you have 24 hours or I'm never speaking to you again. So I called a mutual friend of ours who was trying to 12-step me over the years. And I said, hey, Mike, I'm ready to go to that meeting now. Will you take me to that meeting? He says, your sister just called me, Liz. She wants to see if you're willing to go to any lengths and do it on your own. And I was just devastated. And this is back in the days of MapQuest, and they MapQuested the directions to me. It was a Saturday. This was on a Friday. He sent me the directions. It was a Saturday night 4-speaker meeting. It was a CA meeting, which I did not know that at the time. And I got in my car, I was having a panic attack on the way over. And he's like, Liz, you drove 2,200 miles away. You moved cross country. You didn't know anybody. I don't want to hear that you're afraid to walk into a meeting. Like, it's ridiculous. So I walked into this meeting. There was about 200 people. There was a huge meeting. It was called the Razor's Edge. It was a Cocaine Anonymous meeting. And I sat in the middle. I was about 85 pounds soaking wet. And all 4 people, they told me to listen for the similarities and not the differences. And all 4 people got up and I identified with what their feelings and what they shared. And I felt like, oh my God, for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm in the right place. And as the meeting went on, I was so enthralled. Everybody was happy and they were laughing and joking around and passing out candy and they were having a good time. And I thought, these people are crazy. Like, what the fuck? This is what my life has come to. This is what it's going to be. And the next girl at the end of the meeting, they said, non-CA announcements. And this girl got up and she said her name and she started to talk and I recognized her voice. And after she was done talking and the meeting was over, I walked up to the stage and I don't know what made me do this. And I said, "Hi, Brittany, my name is Liz. I'm Jersey Liz. You called me about 2 years ago and tried to 12-step me. And I remember, I don't remember what we talked about, but I remember you stayed on the phone with me for 2 hours and I have no idea what I said." And she, oh my God, I'm so glad you're here. And she hugged me and I was like, "Oh, don't touch me." And she says, "Don't move." And she went and grabbed about 15 people and they all surrounded me and they were all trying to hug me and and be there for me. And somebody handed me a little big book and they said, they got a CA, what is a newcomer, and they all wrote their phone numbers down and they said, "Call us every day and we're going to get you a sponsor." And I thought, like, all the years my sister was in the rooms, I never really understood what was going on because I was selfish and self-centered because that's who I am. And I didn't have any idea this was about me. And I thought, okay, great. So I took their numbers and they all hugged me and they said, we're gonna be at a Thursday night meeting. It's called The Pipe's Been Passed. It's at 8 o'clock. And they gave me the address and they said, you need to be there because your sponsor is going to be there. And her name's Michelle. And I said, okay. And I walked out and I called my sister and she said, "How was it?" I said, "It was great." She goes, "Good. When you going back?" I said, "Next week." And she says, "No, you're going to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. And I said, "But I don't think I'm an alcoholic." And she said, "Okay, I want you to make commitments to me that you won't drink or use any other mind altering substances for 90 days. At the end of the 90 days, if you don't think you have an alcohol and drug problem, I'll leave you alone. You can go back to your miserable life. Can you do that for me?" And I said, "Yes, I can do that." Because I was so afraid. I didn't know what else to do. So Thursday rolled around. I went to a meeting every day. I was going to 2, 3 meetings a day because I was so afraid to be by myself in my apartment because that's where I used. I didn't know how to live sober. So Thursday rolls around. I walk into this meeting and at this point, I'm finally standing up as a newcomer, anyone under 30 days new in sobriety, because back then we used to stand up in the meeting. And I finally had enough nerve to stand up and introduce myself as a newcomer, and I picked up my white chip. And again, I don't know what any of this means. I just know that I'm doing what I'm told. And this girl, I walked up to this girl and I said, "Hi, are you Michelle? I was told you're going to be my sponsor." And she said, "If I told you to walk down the street naked right now, would you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she says, "Are you willing to go to any length to stay sober?" Which I had no idea again what that meant. And I said, "Yeah." And she says, "You're going to call me every day and check in every day?" And I said, "Yeah." And she says, "And we're going to meet twice a week and read the book." And again, I don't understand any of the lingo. I don't understand anything. And she says, "I want you to get on your knees every morning and every night and ask God to keep you sober. Do you believe in God?" And fortunately for me at the time, I did. But my God at that point was was not loving and forgiving of all the terrible things that I did. I thought I was going to hell. And she said, "Ask God to keep you sober and thank him at night for another sober day." And she said, and ask him to remove the compulsion and obsession to drink and use. I had thought all these things, I thought, never going to work for me. I'm different. I'm not like you people. I'm unique. Well, somewhere, and again, I was going to do everything you people told me to do. And when it didn't work, I was going to go back to my miserable life. And somewhere around, I think it was like 9 days, 10 days, the compulsion and obsession was removed from me and it has never come back. And that was my first God shot. So I continued to do what she told me. I would meet with her once or twice a week. And to be honest with you, I don't really remember a lot of my early sobriety other than I was going to meetings all the time because my head was so scrambled. And she would sit and explain the book to me. And we went through the steps. And, step 1 was really easy for me. I knew I was powerless. I was using against my will. It all made perfect sense. I was done. I was done. And 2, came to believe. 1, came to and came to believe. 1, 2, and 3 were super easy for me. And I could relate to that. And then I was hearing all these people talk about the 4-step and, how they had this great experience and this awakening in the spiritual bush and everything, how wonderful it was. So again, I was going to do whatever I was told because I didn't want to die. And I had that impending doom on top of me at this point. Well, I did my 4-step and you know what? I didn't have this big awakening. I didn't feel better. I was so selfish and self-centered. I saw my part in anything and I didn't care. I was intolerant. I was a terrible person, but I was sobering up. So as time went on, I continued to go through my steps, and life started to get better for me. Took a little while, a little longer than most people, but you know what? I didn't want to die every day. I wasn't praying for God to take me. I could start to look at myself in the mirror again, and life was starting to get better. My family was starting to talk to me again. I got another job, and I was going to 2, 3 meetings a day. And again, I didn't know what else to do. And these people, God love them, they dragged me to the meeting before the meeting after the meeting, coffee after the meeting, dinner after the meeting. And, because I didn't know how to live sober, and I didn't understand that the fellowship was really helping me understand how to grow up. And I was working my steps, and life was getting better. And I'm going to fast forward. Everything was fantastic. I celebrated a year of sobriety. I had this great network of people. I was going to CA, got really involved. I was a coffee girl at my home group for like almost 2 years because they wouldn't let me give it up. I was sponsoring people. I was super involved. My life was just second to none. And I moved cross country again. I moved back to Florida. I moved to Florida to be closer to my family. And my sister got sick suddenly and died. And my whole life blew up in my face because I didn't, she was everything. She saved my life. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here today. And I was 6 years sober at the time. I was in a new area and life got really hard, but I didn't pick it. I didn't pick up. I didn't drink over it. I was grieving. Life was very difficult. Life on life's terms is never easy, but because of this program and a God of my understanding, I didn't have to pick up. And, it was a slow process. And, I still miss my sister every day. I'm coming up on 19 years sober, and I know my sister's watching out for me. And, I have my family back in my life. My parents call me for advice now. My friends in and out of the rooms I'm super connected. I'm able to suit up and show up today where I was never able to show up before. I had every intention. I'd made plans with people and I had every intention of being there. And then I would start drinking and using, and I just couldn't make it out the door. So, today I have a program. I get on my knees every morning, the same thing I did in the very beginning. I ask God to keep me sober. I send out a gratitude list, 10 things I'm grateful for, 5 things I'm grateful not to have in my life. I thank God every night before I go to bed for another sober day. I try to reach out to at least 2 newcomers every day. I'm back involved again. Have I done my program perfectly over the years? I'm going to be really honest and full disclosure. After my sister died, I had a really rough time. I had lost my faith in God, and things got really, really squirrely. And I stopped going to meetings. And that's just the truth. I didn't feel connected anymore. I didn't feel like I deserved to be here. I had survivor guilt, and I was doing my own thing. I wasn't drinking and using, but I was in my own head because it's my thinking that got me here. Drugs and alcohol were my solution, but here's the thing. I am my problem. I am what's wrong. I was an alcoholic way before I picked up that first drink, but I didn't understand any of that until somebody that was armed with the facts was able to share that with me and tell me what was wrong with me. And, I thank God for that. When COVID happened a couple of years ago, I was in transition. I was starting a new career. And I had a friend in Arizona who has a little bit more time than me and said, listen, I'm going to send you a bunch of Zoom meetings. Would you be open to going back to Zoom meetings? Because he knew I wasn't going to meetings. And I said, absolutely. And he said, great. And I said, can you point me in the right direction? Because I'd really like to go back to CA because that's where I feel at home. And I don't know how it happened, and it's God working in my life, but I ended up on a CA meeting in London on a Saturday. That led me to another meeting on a Sunday. Next thing I know, I ended up in Richmond, and which is my home group. As crazy as that sounds, I live in the United States, and Richmond is my home group. And I got fully connected again. I went back and worked my steps over again. I'm going back to live meetings again, and my life is getting it's unbelievable. I live all the promises have come true for me. Again, life on life's terms is never easy. Changing careers at 52 years old was not what I had in store for myself. But I did it, and I was able to walk through my fears because I have a program and I have a sponsor that I've run things by now, running things by the last 10 years in my own head, because I hear my own voice. I think that's a good idea. I should be able to do that. Well, that's not always the case, because my thinking is broken. And, just because I don't drink and use anymore doesn't mean that everything is great. I ask God to remove my defects of character every day, my shortcomings. Do they creep back in? And, do I revert back to old behavior occasionally? Yes, I am human. Things happen. That's just the way it is. But today I hold myself accountable. I have a moral compass, and I know when I'm doing something sideways or something isn't right. I feel it. And, I can't live my life like that anymore, because that will bring me right out the door. And I know my time's coming up. I know, for me, I've buried over 215 people in the last 18 and a half years. This program saved my life, and I'll be eternally grateful for it. If you came into these rooms and you're sitting here, you belong here. Normal people don't walk into the rooms of AA or CA because their life's going really good. They used to tell me, look to your left and look to your right. In 6 months, one of you won't be here. Well, that's a fact. And over the years, I've had people that never really did a complete first step. They never really surrendered. They never really surrendered to themselves that they were an alcoholic and they couldn't drink safely again. I remember that last week like it was yesterday. That just incomprehensible demoralization. I was given the gift of desperation when I got here, and I believe that's what keeps me here. I still do the things I did in the beginning. Fortunately for me, all those people that were on that list, that first meeting I went to, I still talk to about probably 10 of them, and they're all still sober by the grace of God. I bounce things off my friends in recovery all over the world now. I wouldn't trade my life today for anything in the world, even when it gets difficult. I get to, practice the principles in all of my affairs. Life is fabulous. My mother and I haven't had a relationship since I was fucking 14 years old. I talk to her every day. My father and I talk on the phone every day. They come to me for advice. I mean, it's crazy. They wouldn't even talk to me before. I don't remember a lot of my early sobriety because my head was so scrambled, but I'll tell you this, I earned my seat, okay? I've watched people kill themselves. I've watched people overdose and die. I never want to go back out. I don't believe I have another recovery in me. I'll be one of those people, they say, that poor girl. I'll be a statistic. I never want to take that for granted. Life is, I owe it all to CA and my higher power. I'll end it with this, and I say this all the time, and it's, it sounds so silly, but sobriety didn't promise to open the doors of heaven to let me in. It did promise to open the doors of hell to let me out. And, if you're new, please, you have struck gold. I am so fortunate that those first meetings that I went to in the beginning, that I got connected and I got a sponsor that was armed with the facts, that was willing to take me through the steps. And I'll say this too, a sponsor's job is to take you through the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, 1 through 12. They're not to give you financial, relationship, emotional advice. Their job is to take you through the book. That is their job. Okay. Stick with the winners. They say you're not supposed to be judgmental. You want to see what people are doing outside of the rooms. Anybody can walk into a room of CA and talk the talk and walk outside and act like a complete moron. I want to be with the people that are doing the deal. I want to be with the people that are helping others. I want to be with the people that are still connected. I went to a meeting, and I'll end it with this. I'm probably running over. I went to a meeting the other night. The guy that shared, it was a step series. It was on the second step. This is only my second time being in a live meeting. He had 41 years of sobriety. There were people there that had 25 years, 35 years, 27 years, the people I went out to dinner with afterwards, they're all still super connected in the rooms. They still work with others, and you can see it. The sunlight of the spirit is shining through their eyes. Those are the people that I want to be with. They give me hope that my life is going to get better, and no matter what happens in my life, that I don't have to drink and use over it. Thank you all for letting me share. Thank you all. I love you all.